Hello friends, I am Sarah.
I'm Vicky.
Welcome to Moral Story.
Welcome to Moral Story.
LindaHazard killed a dozen people in the early 20th century. They paid Linda for it themselves. Strange to hear, isn't it? There was a small town called Olalla. Most people have forgotten that there was such a city because they could only go to that place by boat. At the center of the investigation was a woman with a memorable name in history. Her name is Dr. LindaHazard. He is known as a fake doctor.
Let's go into the video.
Let's go into the video.
He has been called a fasting specialist by the state of Washington despite his lack of formal training and medical degree in medicine.
He claimed a unique method of medicine and implemented it. He thought that food was the cause of all diseases. Hunger in particular is nostalgia and it is not a desire to be satisfied. Linda states in her 1908 book Fasting for the Cure that she longs for that hunger.
As far as he is concerned, the way to health is fasting. Hazard says the digestive system needs to be rested through more fasting.
Patients who received treatment from him ate less during fasting. He cleansed the digestive system daily with enemas and stud massages. Patients loved his medical system despite the strict methods in his treatment.
Daisy Hockland is an immigrant from Norway. He was admitted to Hazard's hospital in 1908 due to an illness. He died within 50 days of joining the hospital. He was starving to death. He had a son, 5, aged 3. Ivor opened a seafood hotel in Seattle named after his father.
As well as being unforgettable in this history of the British sisters Claire and Dorothy Hazard. They were the daughters of an English army officer named Williamson. The sisters were staying at the Los Empress Hotel in Victoria, British Columbia. They actually saw an advertisement for Hazard's book in the newspaper.
Although they were not seriously ill, they believed that they were more prone to minor ailments. Dora had swollen glands and Clary had a problem with the uterus. They stopped eating meat in order to improve their health. They got involved when they found out about the naturopathy company in Olalla.
The rural setting in which the company was located was also a natural environment suitable for the company. They joined that natural medicine company. They arrived in Seattle in February 1911 after they signed up for treatment.
They were then told that the health center in Olalla was not yet ready for use. So Hazard settled them in an apartment on Capitol Hill.
Soup made with tomatoes was served to them there. A cup of soup was served twice a day. After that, those 2 times were reduced. They were soaked in more water to reduce appetite. For a while those women began to faint. 2 months later his neighbors at the apartment in Olalla were concerned that the sisters weighed a total of 70 pounds.
Even the families of those sisters would have been worried if they had known what was going on in that house. But the sisters even hid from their parents where they were going in order to improve their health.
But a clue to the mystery was found by a child nurse named Margaret. She worked as a nurse for Hazard. Only a few words in that clue made sense to him. So he inquired of the Clary family in Australia. The nurse then sailed northwest to the Pacific to discover the mystery.
The doctor met Margaret, Hazard's husband, Samuel Hazard, former army lieutenant, in Vancouver. Then Samuel revealed some startling information to Margaret. He said Clary was dead. Explaining this later, Dr. Hazard explained that the cause of death was a problem in his liver caused by the drugs given to Claire as a child.
Margaret Conway was never trained as a doctor, but she knew something was wrong. Claire's body was laid to rest at the Butterworth Funeral Home nearby Plus Market. But he was like another guy. His hands, face shape, and hair color all seemed wrong to him. Margaret once discovered that Dora weighed only about 50 pounds when she was in Olla.
His bones were sharply elongated as he sat. It caused pain for Dora. Despite being so hungry, he did not want to leave Olalla. Dr. Hazard was appointed Claire's estate manager and Dora's lifeguard. Dora summoned the lawyer for the power of attorney and prepared the document and signed it.
Margaret made no attempt to save Dora. As an employee, he was reluctant to intervene in the matter. He was afraid to confront someone who was above him.
Hazard was, in fact, interested in spirituality, theosophy, and the occult. So many believed he had a strange ability. Maybe he hypnotized people and even kept them starving. Eventually found a way to free Dora. It was due to the visit of Dora's uncle John Herbert from Oregon. He paid $1,000 to take Dora after some arguments with Hazard.
That $1,000 was enough to start a murder trial against Claire after her death. Hazard was linked to the deaths of several wealthy men as soon as he began researching the case.
They had written off many of their assets to Hazard before they died. Louis C. Reda, a former state legislator, also wrote to Hazard about the property where his health center is located. He then died in May 1911. There was another British patient. He was John Evan, who had come to the United States to buy a farm. but he died with $70 in hand.
Eugene Vaughan of New Zealand is also said to have shot himself while being treated by Hazard. Hazard was appointed administrator of his estate.
LindaHazard was arrested on the 15th of August 1911 on charges of starving Claire Williamson. The case came up for hearing in County Court in Port Orchard the following January. It was discussed how the sisters cried out in pain during the treatment and how they suffered from enemas. People were eager to hear the testimonies of the staff and nurses.
The case has been called a financial famine. He has been charged with several other offences such as forged checks and letters fraud, but there is no evidence to support them. Hazard refused to accept responsibility for Claire's death and other deaths. He believed that diseases could be cured by fasting. 1880 Henry in New York City. S. Tanner became famous from a 40-day fast, but it was not accepted as evidence.
He notes in his book that although severe, Hazard's fasting medical system has taken place in some places in history. That's what he said in the book. Even old Georges and Jesus Christ followed suit. The ancient Greeks believed that devils entered the body through the mouth when eating. So they were fasting to drive them away.
Many, such as Pythagoras, Moses, and John the Baptist, recognized the spiritual power of fasting. Cotton Mather believed that prayer and fasting would cure witchcraft in the body. In the early 19th century, Drive. Edward Tevye wrote the book The True Science of Living. Then this fasting practice was revived.
In that book it was written that diseases arise from the habit of eating more or less. He said he skipped breakfast every day and so his illness was cured. He said you should fast for your own physical health. The book The Lasting Cure, by Upton Singer was published in 1911. It was believed that fasting would lead to healthier health.
Hazard's trial in 1911 proved that he had persecuted everyone. The verdict for his murder was handed down after a short conversation. He was sentenced to work hard in a prison in Waller. His medical license was also revoked. He was pardoned by the governor for some unknown reason, but his medical license was not reissued. He served 2 years in prison. He was fasting in prison to prove his worth. After his release, he moved to New Zealand.
He returned to Olala in 1920 and built his dream building. He called it The Healthy School. The building caught fire in 1935. Hazard, who had been ill in the early 1970s, fasted properly. So his health was affected.
He died shortly after. All living things in the world need energy. That energy is available to humans through food. But many in history have believed that the disease can be eradicated by not eating food without knowing it.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.